experiencing pain at a certain point in life, I would get Relief Factor.
Fight pain naturally with Relief Factor. Go to ReliefFactor.com and get your 3-week quick start today. Only $19.95.
Healthcare is complicated. It doesn't have to be. If you don't love how your health insurance works, maybe it's time to leave traditional health insurance behind. Take charge of your healthcare with Christian Healthcare Ministries. CHM offers you flexibility. Enroll anytime, choose your own provider, and select the program that fits your needs and budget. CHM is the original faith-based way of taking care of your medical bill costs. Learn more at chministries.org/wellness.
Here's the Wall Street Business Report.
Stocks drifted closer to records coming off their stellar May. The S&P 500 rose 0.4%. The Dow edged up 0.1%, and the Nasdaq Composite added 0.7%. Each of the indexes had dropped nearly 1% in the morning following some discouraging updates on U.S. manufacturing. But stocks rallied back as the day progressed, and gains for a few influential big tech stocks helped the S&P 500 to rise, even though the majority of the stocks within it weakened. Oil prices rallied while Treasury yields ticked higher in the bond market. The Dow was up 35 points today to close at 42,305. The Nasdaq gained 128 to 19,242. The S&P 500 adding 24 points to 5935. For the Wall Street Business Report, I'm John Scott.
News and analysis at townhall.com.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Comfy this evening, our low temperature dipping to 63. Tomorrow, much like today, sunshine-filled skies, even warmer, highs up to 89. Increasing clouds on Wednesday, and on Thursday, we do have a 20% chance of some afternoon rain. We'll stay in the mid to upper 80s all week long. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Please press button now. No, that number's bigger than the one I said.
This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on SportsTalkSC.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody, and welcome back from your weekend. It's a Manic Monday here on Sports Talk. Hope you had a terrific weekend. I certainly did, man. I love college baseball regionals. Might be my favorite thing to watch and cover. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the weather's good. Maybe it's because you're outside. Maybe it's because it's baseball, and it's just slower and I don't know, just something about it. I just love the baseball regionals. I love the super regionals, love the college world, love all. As Chris Bergen joins us from the Berge Palace, as he, of course, was at Coastal. I was at Clemson, and I'm sure sooner or later they're going to find a way to mess it up. Right now it's just perfect. It's just perfect. So
true.
But I'm sure they're going to find a way to mess it up with maybe play-in rounds and expand it to X number of teams, and because they can't help themselves. They just can't help themselves, and I'm sure there'll be a new TV contract that comes along that says, give us 24 playoff games over here and we'll expand, But really, it's before we get into the weeds with the Clemson loss and the Coastal victory and all that, let's just talk about the beauty of the weekend and all the regionals and just how much fun it is.
Oh, it was a tremendous amount of fun. And if you're looking at it just strictly in our state, obviously the folks on the coast are having a good time and the folks in the upstate not so much. But just seeing what has happened across college baseball, Phil, and I don't think there's any sport that we follow fully anymore that has exploded as much as college baseball in terms of popularity. Still, it's a regional sport. It's much like NASCAR. It's still a southeastern type sport. But, I mean, you look around the country and see some of the things that occurred over the weekend. First time ever, the number one overall national seed did not advance to the regional championship game. The number 2 seed is out. The SEC looks terrible in the tournament after all the hype and everything that we heard about how great the SEC was. They needed everybody in there. Why weren't the Gamecocks in there? And Missouri should have gone. They won, 3 conference games? That should have been enough because of how strong the SEC is, much like basketball. Well, at least in basketball, they acquitted themselves pretty nicely in the NCAA tournament. Not so much here in the NCAA baseball tournament. And I think, Phil, you can go to this with regards to the way the scholarships were set up. You know, the scholarship limits in college baseball has allowed the talent pool to be spread out, I think, further than any other talent pool in college sports. And we're starting to see this. I mean, you look at teams like that. The Sun Belt has the possibility of getting 2 teams into the Super Regionals. If Southern Miss can hold serve at home tonight against Miami, they'll join Coastal in the Super Regionals. And you're starting to see UTSA. They went to Texas and knocked them out on their home field. You know, Wright State beats Vanderbilt. I mean, just some of the things we're seeing in college baseball, I don't think you see in the other sports. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the talent pool in baseball has grown so much and players realize, hey, I can go to a Coastal Carolina. I can go to a Southern Miss. I can go to a UTSA and I can still play and star and still get my goals, you know, playing in the NCAA tournament, maybe advancing to a super. Who knows? We might take our team to Omaha. And then eventually I'm going to get a chance to play pro ball. And I think you talked about the beauty of the weekend. I think that's part of it. I love as much watching the underdogs in college baseball excel, maybe more so than I do in college basketball.
Well, you saw a lot of surprises. And I want to say this about the SEC, because obviously half of the states in SEC country, half of the states in ACC country. Never seen an organization brag more than the SEC. I've never seen an organization that controls its own media, and its own media just drinks the Kool-Aid and spews the Kool-Aid that it's given over and over and over and over again. And you know what? That's what they're paid to do. They have a commissioner who is so has such tunnel vision that it's all about his league and whatever he can drag along with it. But it's got to be his league, and it's got to be what's best for his league. Everything else be damned. But you got to go prove it. You got to go prove it. You know, everybody is in awe over all the teams that the SEC gets into these various tournaments. Well, you know, keep in mind they've absorbed, you know, parts of other leagues. And you have to go out and then you have to back it up. You do have to back it up. Well, what were they in the bowl season, this past bowl season? I think we determined they were 8-7, weren't they?
Was it 8-7? I thought it was actually below 500.
I thought it was. Yeah. I thought it was 8-7. Go to the men's basketball tournament. They had 6 teams lose in the first round in the SEC in the NCAA tournament. That set a new record, having 6 teams lose in the first round. Look at them in this baseball tournament. I mean, this could be Oklahoma's about to lose to North Carolina. That's another SEC team to be scratched, and. I mean, I'm not saying that the SEC doesn't have some really good teams, some really powerful teams in every sport. Obviously, they do, but you're judged not by what you do inside your league. You're judged by what you do outside your league in a given year. And I mean, they in those 3 major sports, they ain't all that. They ain't. Maybe they're the AAT league. Ain't all that. So shut up, will you? You know, all you SEC water carriers on your SEC networks and all that. I mean, that's really all you do is just it's just so obnoxious. And it's
ironic.
And you can't. You're not backing it up. You know, if you got 7 SEC teams or 6 SEC teams in the College World Series, okay, I'll shut up. But you're not getting that. So anyway, that was that on that. And I think people take a lot of satisfaction in the fact that the SEC's getting its butt beat in a lot of different areas in this tournament, because they do ballyhoo themselves so much to the point of just being obnoxious about it.
Wouldn't it be ironic, though, if you look at the history of the Southeastern Conference, one thing it is known for certainly is football, and it backs it up most years. Didn't win the national championship in football. Baseball is probably its second most popular sport within the league itself. They've won, 6 straight national championships, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't it be ironic if and even their women's basketball has risen to new levels. Wouldn't it be ironic if the only national championship they win is in men's basketball this year of the major sports?
Yeah. I mean, their men basketball, outside the league, they dominated the ACC. But when they went to the NCAA tournament, they didn't back it up, as I pointed out.
Florida.
Mm-hmm. Except for Florida. And really, who saw Florida in the preseason being as great as they turned out to be? Florida just put it all together, had a great year with a coach that made it all happen. So, all right, let's turn our attention to what's going on and what we saw. And let's start with you because you were on the winning side. What a weekend. Boy, Coastal Carolina is just busting at the seams with pride over what they did. The number of fans they had, over 6,000 per game, and the setting was awesome. You had some great games. You had some fireworks involving O'Sullivan, and you had some fireworks involving Coastal Carolina's coach. And, it was just a very eventful weekend, and now they move on to play Auburn at a time, on a day and a time to be announced here later on. No, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning they announced that.
Probably tomorrow, yeah.
So, but what a great weekend you had.
Oh, it was tremendous, and we'll get to Kevin O'Sullivan a little bit later on, let you hear what Kevin Snall had to say about the only thing I can add to what Coach said, and we'll develop the story a little bit later, but how disappointed I am. I didn't hold Kevin O'Sullivan in very high regard to begin with, just because of some of the other stuff that's happened with him off the field. This, if my opinion could have been any lower about him, what he did over the weekend certainly backed that up. And then you want to talk about another SEC team. Came in there. They were supposed to be the favorites to win the regional. I saw a podcast that said Florida fans ought to be jumping for joy doing backflips going to Coastal. It should be a cakewalk for them. The number 2 seed never played the number 1 seed, because they couldn't win games. They got beat by East Carolina twice in their only way home. But in terms of what Coastal was able to accomplish, just remarkable stuff. And I looked this up because I wasn't sure, but Kevin Snall was asked in the postgame, Phil, about his pitching staff. And we've talked a lot about Coastal's pitching staff, and that's why I've held the belief all season long they were the best team in the state because of their pitching staff. They have not lost a game, and I'm sure Chad Holbrook will enjoy this when we visit with him later. The College of Charleston was the last team to beat them in April. They did not lose a game the entire month of May, and part of it is their pitching staff. They have an earned run average on that staff of 3.24. I went back to look at the 2010 Coastal team, which I'll still contend was probably the best team that Coastal's put together. They just had, from their perspective, the misfortune of having to run into one of the best teams South Carolina ever had in the Super Regionals. That pitching staff was fielded a 3.52 ERA. And then the one that won the World Series with Andrew Beckwith and Alex Cunningham and all those guys, they had a 3.40 ERA. So when Kevin Snall was asked last night if this is the best pitching staff he's seen at Coastal, he said absolutely. And it's hard to argue with Jacob Morrison and Riley Eichhoff, who pitched a dandy of a ball game yesterday. When's the last time you can remember a college baseball game, high-level game, that's a 1-0 final? And that's exactly what we saw last night between ECU and Riley Eichhoff, because the pitching was so outstanding. It was so different from the game we saw on Saturday night when the two teams combined for 25 runs and 33 base hits. But if you're going to beat Coastal, you're going to have to deal with that pitching staff, and it's really hard to do so. And it's a reason they're sitting at 51-11. They've won 21 straight ball games, longest winning streak in the country. And they are, it's now the third most wins in program history for a team. They're only two behind. They're only two teams in front of them, and there's the two I mentioned, the 2010 team and the 2016 team that won the national championship. So, that's the kind of company this year's team is keeping. They may not have all the home runs. We talked with Gary Gilmore about this a week or so ago when we had him on the show, and I asked him, do you see a comparison between your national championship team and this year's team? And he said, well, the one vast difference is the power numbers. That team hit home runs like it was going out of style. They finished the year with over 100, I got the numbers here, 96 home runs to go along with all the sacrifice bunts and hits they had. Coastal can play the small ball if necessary, but they're starting to get their power numbers up, and if you fall behind them 5 runs, you're not catching them. because that pitching staff is going to shut you down. So it was an awfully impressive weekend. The crowds were tremendous. The atmosphere between Coastal and East Carolina reminded me of what we used to see in the heyday between Clemson and Carolina, whether it be at Doug Kingsmore Stadium or over at Founders Park. That's the kind of environment that Coastal played in most of the weekend, and I thought they made a huge factor. And so the Chanticleers are now going to Auburn, and I can't imagine Auburn's thinking, oh, good, we've got Coastal. They play in the Sun Belt. We should have no problems with these guys. That's probably their worst fear, is the fact they may have to face Coastal and that pitching staff this weekend.
Yeah, they're too smart. And they'll know Coastal, and they'll be aware of what Coastal brings to the table. While we're on the subject, Florida has released a statement from their AD, Scott Strickland, and their head coach, Kevin O'Sullivan, about what happened. Why don't you tell people, before I read the statement, because people might not be aware, why we had this blow-up yesterday, Sunday, in the late morning, early afternoon, around the scheduling of that elimination game between ECU and Florida. Why did it happen?
All right, let's go back to Friday. You remember I was on the show, and I was basically a weather forecaster on Friday. We were watching it rain. After Florida and East Carolina played, they left the ballpark, obviously, and Coastal and Fairfield were getting set to play. They were supposed to have started that game at 6. We did not actually start that game until 10:30. The game ended around 1:15 Saturday morning. And so the NCAA, and keep in mind, Kevin O'Sullivan made a lot of this about Coastal. Coastal had nothing to do with this. The NCAA made the decision to bump the games back on Saturday. So they allowed Fairfield a little rest time, which I thought was legitimate. It made perfect sense to me. So they started the Florida-Fairfield elimination game on Saturday at 3. Where they made their mistake was then they also wanted to start the Coastal-East Carolina winners bracket game at 7 o'clock. Phil, you've watched enough college baseball over the years. You know full well you cannot start one ball game, finish it, have 55 minutes in between, and start the second game at a 4-hour time window. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
So Coastal and East Carolina didn't start until, I think, about 8 o'clock. So they were an hour behind there. The game clearly lasted a long time because of all the runs that were scored. It went well. I think it finished up right before midnight, so it was right at a 4-hour game. So the NCAA made the decision to do the same thing, except they bumped the Florida East Carolina game yesterday just an hour. It was supposed to be first pitch at 12:06. It actually started at 1:06. Well, that evidently lit the fuse on Kevin O'Sullivan's short temper to begin with, because he comes looking for people to yell at, and he goes into a profanity-laced tirade at the NCAA representative, who's Mark Scalf. And if you know that name, he's a Hall of Fame coach. He's a former head baseball coach at UNC Wilmington. Well, he was the site representative, and he got an earful. And evidently, Coach O'Sullivan was not happy about the fact that he didn't find out until late that they were moving the game back an hour. Now, keep in mind, they didn't go from 12 noon to 11 o'clock a.m. They went from 12 to 1. So it actually gave everybody a little extra time. But he made the comment that he had to let his director of ops know. He had to let his athletic trainer. The funny part was he said, I had to let my bus driver know. And I'm thinking, Kevin O'Sullivan does not talk to the bus driver. I'm pretty sure he's not really worried about whether or not the bus driver is doing his job. The only time he probably talks to the bus driver is when he's not doing his job. But, I mean, he yelled at the NCAA representatives. One of the two representatives, not Coach Scaff, it was the other one, he was almost nose to nose with and pointing at him as he was continuing this verbal barrage of trash, and continually just, as many of the F-bombs as you could possibly drop on a person in polite company. Where he made his biggest mistake, Phil, is I think he did that out in public so everybody could see it. If you've got a problem with the NCAA, take it inside. Go into the locker room, say, look, I need to have a word with you guys. Can we do it in private? He did not do that. Unfortunately, he showed his backside. And so Kevin Snall, after the win last night in his postgame, and you'll hear this a little bit later on, he defended everybody. He said, look, he never called Kevin O'Sullivan out by name. We knew who he was talking about. He actually referenced a national championship winning coach. And, of course, Florida won in 2017. But Kevin Snall basically stood up for everybody there, reminded everybody that the NCAA made these decisions, and for Kevin O'Sullivan to say what he did was disappointing. Is about as harsh as Coach Snall went. And I agree with him. I mean, if you had any respect for Kevin O'Sullivan, you probably lost it all this weekend. I just thought it was totally unnecessary. And clearly his team didn't respond to his tirade because they went out and they were miserable yesterday. I'm not sure I've seen a Florida team look less interested in playing than they did this weekend, and East Carolina took full advantage of it. And I think everybody enjoyed watching Florida have to tuck tail between their legs and head home after that.
Yeah. Here's the statement from Scott Strickland. This afternoon I met with Kevin O'Sullivan, told him that his actions prior to yesterday's game fell well short of expectations of how Gators treat people. One of our department's core values is respect, and Coach O'Sullivan's unacceptable actions failed to demonstrate that. On behalf of Florida athletics, I want to personally apologize to everyone impacted, including NCAA representatives, Coastal Carolina and their staff, East Carolina and their team, as well as to Gator Nation. Now, the statement from Kevin O'Sullivan. Prior to yesterday's tournament game against East Carolina, I let my emotions get the best of me and channeled that energy in a way I should not have. I want to sincerely apologize for my actions and behavior to the entire NCAA regional field at Coastal Carolina, East Carolina, and Fairfield, the NCAA site representatives, as well as all of Gator Nation. I did not represent the university to the appropriate standard yesterday and take full responsibility for that and promise to learn from this experience and be better moving forward. I appreciate all of the tireless efforts on behalf of host Coastal Carolina, their tournament director, Brian Stiles, and the NCAA over the course of NCAA regionals, and am sorry for allowing this instance to get in the way of an otherwise great weekend of postseason baseball.
That's nice. Somebody wrote that for him, and I appreciate Florida doing that. But he also had an opportunity yesterday afternoon at his postgame press conference to apologize publicly. He dodged that because he was asked a point-blank question from some of the East Carolina reporters, and he said, I've handled it. Yeah.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
I'm not sure that Kevin O'Sullivan wrote any of that.
Yep.
If he did, props to him because he should have apologized. He handled it poorly. There's no question. He also yelled at the East Carolina players, too. For some reason. Before the game.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
now to
Crazy.
Clemson. Now to Clemson, which was, first of all, kudos to the Clemson people for putting on a terrific regional. Kudos to Brian Hennessy for running a great media area. Tony Schufo for handling the post-game press conferences with great professionalism. It was all so well done. DKS, Club DKS, was at its loudest. It's a shame they interrupt really good music with a baseball game. They really play some nice tunes. They really play great tunes.
At a high volume.
At a very high volume. Now, I mean, I really don't know how people feel about it. I mean, they must like it. I don't know if you like not being able to hear your neighbor talk to you when the music's playing. You really cannot hear the person next to you when the music's at its loudest. But anyway, that aside, Clemson just flat. And we kind of sensed this could have been an issue after they got through their first two starters. They just flat run out of pitching. Of course, that's what happens. You give up all those runs. And the play in the field against Kentucky. You know, if you follow SEC baseball, you knew Kentucky didn't have a great year. But I remember when they played South Carolina and we previewed them and we talked about their speed, their stolen bases, and how much they get hit at the plate. And all that came into fruition against Clemson. And they ran the Tigers silly, and they 7 errors. And, I mean, I think a lot of that was caused by the Kentucky speed because you are rushing your throw, you're scooping improperly, trying to pick balls, lifting your head up, not doing the basics the right way because you got to be quicker. You got to be faster because they're taking the extra base. They run with reckless abandon. And they're going to take the extra base or try to take the extra base and force you, which speed up baseball. And Backett said afterwards, they used to play speed up baseball. They've played sped up baseball, as he put it, at Clemson before. He knows what that can be like. And they just, even after Clemson took a 2-0 lead yesterday afternoon, Kentucky came right back and put 2 on the board. And that had to be kind of a shock to the system. And then a couple of innings later, they started to pile it on, and it just got away. And so 3 seasons in with Eric Backich, I mean, he's won at least 44 games all 3 seasons, 2 regionals and 1 super regional. And Clemson fans, of course, are getting antsy about getting back to Omaha. Omaha is not granted to you. Omaha has to be earned. It's not a birthright. And, the Tigers haven't been since 2010. South Carolina hasn't been since 2012. So it's not easy, obviously. And this tournament, the grind that it is and the wear and tear on your players and your pitching staff, you got to have things just come together just right, Bergie. You probably saw Coastal Carolina. It came together just right for them. Home field, they played excellent baseball. Their best players played at their best.
Exactly.
They got power pitching and power. Clemson doesn't have power arms. I don't know that they have anybody that I saw who can routinely hit 95, 96. And I think they know they've got to go out and find that. But then again, who isn't looking for power arms? Somewhere. They don't grow on trees. So, Cam Cannarella had a great send-off. He had a great regional. He had 8 hits in the regional. He was fantastic. But not enough guys stepped up along with him to help them get through this regional and get to a position to play in a super regional. So, Cannarella had a great career, but never made it to Omaha, and that was something that was very sad for the Clemson people to have to deal with afterwards. So they lose some really good players off of this team as well. So we'll see what they do recruiting wise and how they plug the holes and what they do in the transfer portal. So it was a fun weekend at Clemson, and but from the standpoint of the Clemson baseball team, they came up short. You fall into that losers bracket. And it's really hard if you don't have a ton of pitching. And with their injuries, they never used Darden over the weekend, even though he was back and available. He never got in. They did use Garris. And when your closer comes out 2 different occasions and on his first pitch gets taken deep, one for a home run and one for a run-scoring double, when you expect him to kind of come in and throw water on the fire, he throws gas on the fire. There you go. The end result is you're sitting at home.
Yeah, and 11 of the last 12 postseason appearances that Clemson's in a situation where they fail to reach the supers. It's just really hard to believe with that program. And Phil, we thought this year was it, but I really think the pitching injuries that they had throughout the season came back to bite them and caught up with them down the stretch.
Okay, we'll be back after the break. We'll catch you up on the scoreboard, other news notes. We'll take some phone calls and a lot of recruiting coming up as well. Be right back.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Comfy this evening, our low temperature dipping to 63. Tomorrow, much like today, sunshine-filled skies, even warmer, highs up to 89. Increasing clouds on Wednesday, and on Thursday, we do have a 20% chance of some afternoon rain. We'll stay in the mid to upper 80s all week long. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Dave Ramsey here. Do you want your money to work for you rather than you working for your money? Go see my friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union. They're not a mega bank and have been serving the Midlands since 1936, offering good old-fashioned customer service and free services. They'll look out for your financial well-being. With 14 locations, check them out today at palmettocitizens.org. Federally insured by the NCUA.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Authorities say 4 additional victims have been identified in the Boulder attack, bringing the number of injured to 12. A man's accused of throwing Molotov cocktails into a group that had gathered to bring attention to Israeli hostages in Gaza. The FBI says the man charged in the attack told police he planned it for a year and specifically targeted what he described as the Zionist group. Millions of South Koreans are voting for a new president in a snap election triggered by the ouster of Yoon Suk-yeol, a conservative who faces a criminal trial over his short-lived imposition of martial law in December. Pre-election surveys suggest liberal Lee Jae-myung appears headed for an easy win in Tuesday's election. On Wall Street, the Dow by 35 points. More details at srnnews.com.
Hey, this is Kev with my good friend Ken from over at Broker Solar, and he really is a good friend. I've known Ken's family for more than 20 years. All right, so how many people lost power for an extended time back when we had that hurricane come through here, right? You got the solution, though, Ken, the solar-powered batteries.
The battery with solar system is essential. Not only can you back up your loads in an emergency event like a power outage, but you can also control the peak times that you use power, and the batteries can kick in to supplement your power usage. With our solar batteries, you can back up the home just like a generator would, but run it off the clean energy from the sun, which we get every single day. So no need to refill the gas, propane tanks, all powered by the sun.
Remember, Broker Solar is local. You make the call, the investment is worth it. How do the Point listeners find you over at Broker Solar, Ken?
The best way is going to be through brokersolar.com. Plenty of contact us buttons, but the phone number to reach us at would be 803-807-7417.
If you step onto H&J Cattle's farm, you'll find third-generation farmers upholding the legacy. They embrace sustainability and take immense pride in their craft, raising cattle purely on nature's offerings, without growth hormones, antibiotics, or animal byproducts. The result? Unmatched quality beef that's not just good, it's the best in South Carolina. Experience the distinct flavor of our finest registered Hereford and Wagyu beef. Visit us online at HandJCattle.com or on Instagram and Facebook at H&J Cattle.
When I grew up, I want to be a nurse. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a teacher.
There's never been a better time to start making their dreams come true. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings plan, makes it easy to save for their future education. Contributions are tax deductible, earnings are tax free, and you can start saving right now with any amount. Go to futurescholar.com today to discover the smart, easy way to save for college. That's futurescholar.com.
Relax. Your banking should be easy. You'll love our free checking account with e-statements from Founders Federal Credit Union. You get everything you need. No monthly fees, no stress. Founders Online makes it easy to securely and seamlessly switch your direct deposit in minutes. It uses the latest in online encryption technology to gather and store your switch information. Additionally, Founders adheres to the highest industry standards to keep your personal information safe. Still waiting to switch? No worries. Apply today for an account and enjoy your secure, convenient banking with Founders. Already have an account? Founders Online lets you transfer your direct deposit in just a few clicks. Let Founders be your trusted financial partner. Visit one of our convenient locations or go to foundersfcu.com/checking to get started today. Federally insured by the NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
Now, speaking of Ethan Darden.
How's that for timing?
He's transferring. Now, is that related to the weekend or just what? Pete Nakos reported that Darden has entered the transfer portal. Today's the first day that the Portal John window, and yeah, please open that window widely around the Portal John. The Portal John window.
Especially in the summertime.
And spray a little whatever scent that you want to use. Open that window. The Portal John window has to be opened very wide. So Ethan Darden is transferring. Left-hander, 5.5 career ERA, 162 innings, 12-9 record, 121 strikeouts. He'll be valuable to somebody and picked up if his injury that he had, as I recall, back on like April 19th, he had tricep. I think he had a tricep issue going on, if I remember correctly. So
that is correct.
He is going to be available. Meantime, John Whittle, Big Spur, reported a little while ago that indeed Jake McCoy is returning to South Carolina. So the Gamecocks have had some losses, had some guys hit the portal. We'll go over that in a little bit. They've had some guys to enter, but Jake McCoy, young, valuable left-hander, weekend starter for them, quality pitcher, is coming back to South Carolina. So that's good news for them. With what they've done, what they've retained, and they have lost a couple of key players, no question about it, but what they've retained so far and what they've picked up, starting to put together a pretty solid-looking roster at South Carolina, but there's still, of course, a ton of work to be done. Okay, phone number, give you that if you want to join us. Your reaction to the weekend, 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to reach us here on Sports Talk. Again, the number, 888-898-2525. You can also send us a text message very easily. That's 803-900-4847, brought to you by Larry Lucas Insurance, 803-900-4847. That's how you can text us, and we'll read your message over the air if it's a decent message. So we communicate with you that way. Updating today, North Carolina is going to the Supers. They're going to host the Super. They beat Oklahoma 14-4. Another SEC team. That's what, 8 SEC teams eliminated, I think. North Carolina beat Oklahoma 14-4, 14-7-0 for the Blue Bellies, 4-7-1 for Oklahoma. Wake Forest is leading Tennessee 2-0. Boy, it's early. They're bottom of the second in Knoxville. Does Wake Forest, and they had a very average ACC team this year. They were not a great ACC team. Do they have enough pitching to get through this? They're up 2-0, bottom of the second. Murray State is leading Ole Miss 2-0, bottom of the second.
Oh, my.
Does Murray State have enough to win in Oxford? It's early. You can't,
Oh, yeah.
You can't get too pumped up, jacked up one way or the other. You got Little Rock and LSU later on. Southern Cal and Oregon State. Oregon State's leading 1-0. This is in Corvallis. 1-0, bottom of the second. And then later it's Southern Miss, and a very average Miami team has a chance to get to a super regional. So, you know what? It's all about getting to the postseason and then playing your best. Whatever your best happens to be, it's about getting to the postseason, wiping the slate clean, and then seeing what you can do. See how far you can ride it.
Since you saw them this weekend, what was your takeaway from West Virginia?
Impressed with West Virginia, impressed with their coach. I thought that they had some really good arms. The starter against Clemson was a guy that was sort of a mixture of a reliever and a starter. He did not pitch from the windup, and he was about 5-6 innings in. He was still hitting 95, 96. And then they brought in a reliever that hit 96, 97. So they had some very strong arms. They ran well. They played good defense. They have a good team. They won 44 games, and that included, I think they had like a 2-7 finish to their regular season. So they were really rolling along in the Big 12. Won the Big 12 regular season championship, got beat in the tournament. So that was a quality team. And Randy Mazey was there, the former Clemson star who was the longtime coach at West Virginia who just retired. Prior to this year, he was there taking it all in. So like West Virginia, they have some good bullpen arms as well. So was impressed with them. And I was impressed with Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky lost in a walk-off to West Virginia, then turned around and beat Upstate, and then turned around and beat Clemson, and could have won that game last night, 13-12. You know, could have won that game. They had I think West Virginia had a 6-run inning. I think it was 6 runs, like in the 8th. They were down. It was like a 6-run 8th inning to pull that one out. So, impressed with West Virginia for sure.
And they could host a super if Little Rock pulls off the upset tonight. And, Clemson's just going to kick itself if LSU does not finish the deal at home.
Yeah.
The Tigers could, if they gotten out of their own regional, could host a super.
Yep, that would have been the case. I can't see LSU. I don't know a thing about either. Little Rock, but we've seen Coastal go through LSU in a super, and I think Stony Brook went through LSU in a super to get to or to at least to get to Omaha. Didn't Stony Brook get to Omaha one time?
Yes, I think they've been there.
And once. I think they went through. I want to say they went through Baton Rouge. Double check me on that. So. It can happen. I can't see this happening tonight, but we shall see. Let's jump to the phones, get some calls rolling, and we'll check some messages and update some other notes as well. And our phone number, 888-898-2525. We're going to go first tonight to Body. Where are we going? Because I don't have my list open up. Keith in Camden. Okay. Keith, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm doing great, Phil, and I hope you are, and Chris.
Mm-hmm. And say hello to the Body.
Yeah.
Jesse the Body Johnston.
Yes. A question, and then I'll hang up and listen. The thing with the running back, Faison, the NCAA, I'm just confused on what authority do they really have? I mean, it just seems like here we are, they're getting challenged everywhere, and then you come down to a kid, whether he gets another year or not. I mean, at the end of the day, what authority do they really have? And does the university or other universities have, who's going to say if you play him, what happens? So I'm just curious to have a little background on that. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay.
Thank you, bud.
Thank you. Well, of course, the courts ruled in the case of the Vanderbilt quarterback that a year of junior college play would not count against you when it comes to your eligibility on the NCAA level. If you, see if I remember this correctly, if you were in junior college before 2021, is that correct? Do you remember that, Bergie? There was a year there.
That sounds right.
There was a cutoff there. You had to be there from 2021 on or before 21. Look that up if you would, but there's a stipulation there. And so, but what's happened is, of course, people are trying to apply it across the board and wipe the slate clean of all their years of junior college and say none of that should count against me. I thought the ruling was just 1 year. Do you have the ruling in front of you?
I'm looking up a story about him, and it doesn't list a specific year. He was actually in junior college for 2 years.
Right. But he was going to get 1 year back.
Right, exactly.
And so in the case of Faison, his is look, he was a freshman at Marshall in 2019. His college life began in 2019. He did not play football. He so-called gray-shirted in 2019. In 2020, he transferred to Lackawanna Junior College in Pennsylvania. He did not play football. But, the clock had started if there's still a clock.
Sure.
Then 2021, he went to Snow Junior College in Utah. He did not play in any games. He didn't play football in his first 3 years after leaving high school. Then he attended Snow College for another year. So he spent 3 years in junior college. He had 1 year at Marshall. It was 22 when he played his first year of football. Then he played again in 23 at Utah State, and he played again in 24 in Utah State. His 6th year in college, but his 3rd year of football. And he also had that 2020 year where he didn't play football, but he was in junior college, so you can throw that out the window because you get the 2020 year back, the COVID year. I think you can throw that out the window. So that would still be 2 years of junior college with a clock that started in 2019. I'm sure South Carolina's arguing, he's been in college for a while, but he's only played 3 years of football. So he should have really 2 years of football minimum left to play. That would be my guess as to what they're kind of arguing there. Forget the fact that he started college somewhere in 2019. He didn't touch a football until 2023. Make that 2022. I'm sorry. Junior college, Snow College, 2022. So I don't know. How do you look at that? For me, hey, I'm fine with it. Let the guy play. I don't care if it's South Carolina or Clemson or if he's at Michigan State. Let the guy play.
Well, here's the issue you have, and I think Keith brings up an interesting point. If you're South Carolina, just play him. What are they going to do? And then if they start to cause an issue, that's when you bring the lawyers in and let them go sue the NCAA like everybody else does.
But you run the risk. If you play him, you run the risk of, at some point, if you lose, forfeiting any game
exactly
that you won that he played in,
But
like right now, they'd have to forfeit the spring game because he played in the spring game. They would have to forfeit.
And this goes to that old saying about attorneys: never ask a question you don't already know the answer. To.
Yeah.
If South Carolina brought him in, they had to have an assumption. You would think they had an assumption and a pretty good standing that he was going to be cleared. If not, I think this is a massive mistake on Shane Beamer and the coaching staff's part, because they placed basically, for the most part, a lot of their eggs in that running back basket into Faison.
Mm-hmm.
They're expecting him to be able to play for them, and they didn't go out and try and get anybody else, and it's way too late now. You're not going to get anybody that's better than what you already have on the roster. And if they miss out on this, I think it's a massive mistake in recruiting.
You're exactly right. I mean, you got Oscar Attaway, and he played a fair amount last year, but he's not your. Can he be your every down back? I mean, he was an every down back at North Texas.
He had
a lot of carries at North Texas, but then you got Matthew Fuller, you got Jawan Howell, you got Dontavius Braswell. I mean, those guys haven't played a lick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, maybe you've got a hidden jewel in there, but you don't know. You're right. They've left themselves naked. It kind of reminds me of Clemson at quarterback a couple of years ago when they did not have a true backup ready to go. It was early years of Klubnik, I believe. Yeah, it was his early years, and they didn't have a backup ready to go. Nobody with any experience, and they're kind of in the same position at running back at South Carolina. You're right. You would think that if they took this guy, knowing the situation, that they knew he was going to be fine, that there would not be any holdup from an NCAA standpoint. They should have had some assurances somewhere. Maybe they thought they did have assurances somewhere.
But yeah, they're going to have a lot of egg on their face if he's not eligible and cannot play, because I think that's going to hurt them massively on that offense. I mean, their wide receivers are going to be fine. Certainly their quarterback is elite. But I don't think you want to have Lenoris throw it every time, and when he can't, have him run it every time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Somebody, they need a Rocket Sanders back there, somebody that can take a little bit of the pressure off of Lenoris to carry the ground game.
All right, thank you for the phone call. Going to run to the break, and we'll be back. You want to join us?
Before we do,
yeah,
quickly, Stony Brook, you were exactly right. In 2012, they made the College World Series, and they won 2 out of the 3. They won games 2 and 3 in Baton Rouge at LSU.
Can be done. I mean, I know the box is intimidating and all that, and those fans can be tough, but if you got what it takes, you can get through there and get to Omaha. Maybe Little Rock's got what it takes. We'll be back in just a moment.
When I grew up, I want to be a nurse. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a teacher.
There's never been a better time to start making their dreams come true. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 529 college savings plan, makes it easy to save for their future education. Contributions are tax deductible, earnings are tax free, and you can start saving right now with any amount. Go to futurescholar.com today to discover the smart, easy way to save for college. That's futurescholar.com.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. That's the sound of a big hit on you and your car or truck. I've been an attorney for more than 30 years, helping people who get injured in car wrecks and truck wrecks. If you have serious injuries, call Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968, or email me at jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. That's CORBETT. I don't get paid unless I recover for you. Jim Corbett Attorney, for your best recovery from a big hit, 803-765-2968, or jim@jimcorbettattorney.com.
George Bryan here with Tsunami Bar Sports and some great spring golf news. If you're ready to mash your tater, I think you need a Laginator. And if you want to get more speed and crack the whip, it's time for a mini stick. So TsunamiBarSports.com, GB10 to get 10% off the Laginator and the mini stick. That's TsunamiBarSports.com, GB10 for 10% off.
Diamonds came from dirt. The more I love you, the less I hurt. Now my pen can't find the words. I wrote songs about sin and evil women, pills and cars. I wrote songs about drinking till you walked in and raised the bar. But who am I?
All right, we got Jesse the Body Johnson behind the board tonight. the body. People wonder why we call him the body. If you're watching this on our stream, I mean, Jesse's pretty well put. What's the? You ever measured your biceps? What are your biceps? You got to come to the mic. We got to teach Jesse how to actually go on the radio.
17-inch.
17-inch biceps. Ooh, man, I'm more impressed than I thought.
My brother's 18, so he's got me beat by an inch, but.
He's an 18-inch bicep.
Yes, sir. He's
How
got
about
a higher
that?
peak. Mine's
you got to talk into the mic. I got to teach you.
He's got a higher peak, but mine's a little bit longer, so I'm trying to catch up.
So you're really into the bodybuilding stuff. That's something that you do on the side.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I go most days. About 2-3 years now, but I enjoy it. It's very fun. Keeps me athletic, so I enjoy it.
You went to high school where?
Dutch Fork.
Dutch Fork.
Yes, sir.
And you didn't play football?
No, played soccer. I was a tiny little kid in high school, but kind of blossomed after, and
too late. Man.
You
could have been a defensive end.
I wish I played. Wish I sprouted a little bit earlier, but
hey,
it's all good.
You're doing fine.
Phil, we may have found the only boy in the history of Dutch Fork High School that did not play football there.
There's been a couple. They got good baseball players. They got good everything over there at Dutch Fork. Jesse, good job. Good job. Wake Forest 2-0 on Tennessee, bottom of the third. Murray State now 3-0 on Ole Miss, top of the third. North Carolina's beaten Oklahoma 14-4. And Oregon State is leading Southern Cal 3-0 in the bottom of the third. So, one thing about those folks who came in for the regional, they went on down to the beach after hanging around Conway. I know Coastal likes to tell people in recruiting that they're on the beach. They really aren't.
All at the beach, yeah.
No, it's not really at the beach. Let's
you're right.
be honest.
You're
You're 15 miles from, you can't walk to the beach from Coastal. Okay, let's don't fool people. It'd be a very.
But sometimes during the summertime on 501, it may actually be faster.
This is true.
To walk to the beach.
This is true. If those people were smart, they would have called Jimmy Smith and said, "Jimmy, I'm coming for the regional. Take care of me this weekend on the beach at the sand. I want to come out of my back door and have the sand on my feet." And Jimmy could have helped them out then. He can help you out now, looking ahead to this summer, which is only officially 19 days away, the start of summer?
Yeah.
21st,
right around the corner.
Like the 21st, 22nd?
Yeah.
So act today and call Jimmy Smith for your vacation getaway hideaway. 843-237-4246 is Jimmy's number. Online at pauliesvacationrentals.com. Your perfect beach getaway is just a phone call or a click away. 843-237-4246. pauliesvacationrentals.com. All right, let me update a few other things going on of importance. I think they're important to us. We mentioned Ethan Darden is transferring and Jake McCoy is coming back. So bad news for Clemson and some good news for South Carolina from that standpoint. And we'll have a bunch of recruiting coming up for you here after the top of the hour break. Going to come out of the break loaded up with recruiting information. Stay tuned for that. In the state of Illinois today, they passed a new sports betting tax, 25 cents for every bet for a licensee's first 20 million bets, and then 50 cents per bet thereafter. Let me say that again. A 25% tax for a licensee for their first 20 million bets, and then it goes up to 50 cents per bet thereafter. So the state of Illinois is looking to cash in on those looking to cash in.
Well, and help me understand, licensee, is that the actual betting office, or is that, Joe Smo who goes to lay down $5 on the Chicago Bears every weekend?
I mean, licensee sounds to me like, people like like ESPN bets. And the people that are providing you the betting avenue, it seems to me like that would be who they're looking to tax here. Now, is that going to be passed on to the bettor? Are you going to have to pay a tax when you put down your wager? Like if you put down a $10 wager, okay, it's going to be $10, and they automatically calculate that and take it out of your card.
Right.
Say you want to put a $10 down, it's going to be an extra 10 cents, whatever. You're not going to miss it. If you're willing to put $10 down, $20 down, you're not going to mind paying an extra quarter for your bet, I wouldn't think.
And you are right. I read further into the story, and they reference a place like FanDuel.
Yeah.
And so they're going to be taxed.
Yeah. Let's see here. Apple TV is the leading candidate to add the MLB rights released by ESPN. Apple TV. Okay. A lot of talk about, of course, we had the last Inside the NBA on TNT the other night. Very sad that TNT is losing the rights because they did such a great job with that show. Front Office Sports writing that Inside the NBA will lead the ESPN NBA pregame and halftime programming, and there will be an extensive postgame show, and ESPN has no plans to change the show's DNA. This is probably in response to Chuck going on the Dan Patrick Show.
I'm sure he
Did you hear what he said?
I just know he blasted some of the changes.
Yeah, he said that there's going to be all kind of change. He doesn't know what's going on. They're saying there's not going to be any changes. All right, so we'll see. Our poll question of the week brought to you by Larry Lucas Insurance. Call Larry at 803-799-1998 for all your insurance needs. And they are very good. I had a little question for him the other day, got right back to me and getting it resolved. So, Coastal Carolina is the last of the state's baseball teams still standing. The Chants will play at Auburn this weekend in a super regional. How do you see it? How do you see it? CCU sweeps. CCU takes 2 of 3. Auburn sweeps. Auburn 2 out of 3. Right now, 50% of the votes see the Chanticleers winning 2 out of 3. Auburn, 35.7% winning 2 out of 3. And then 14.3% have Auburn sweeping. Nobody has voted CCU to sweep. You'll be there.
Yes, I will. The last time I was there in a super regional for Coastal, they swept. Not that I had anything to do with it. I'm just pointing that out. That team also went on to win the College World Series, so who knows?
Where did they play? With their super, they played at LSU.
LSU.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you were there.
That was the most awesome experience. Oh, it was incredible.
You were there? Yeah.
It was really incredible. That place is amazing.
Seems like every team I cover loses. I went to Providence with Clemson basketball. They lost. I went to Tampa with USC women's basketball. They lost. I went to Clemson for their regional. They lost. Is there a message there?
The corn curse.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. A private prison company is having their appeal heard by the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court has agreed to hear an appeal from the Geo Group, which runs a private prison in Colorado. The company is still facing a lawsuit from 2014 claiming immigration detainees were forced to work and paid only $1 a day. The company says the immigrants can't sue because the facilities are run on behalf of the government, which is immune from such lawsuits. Similar lawsuits have been brought on behalf of immigration detainees elsewhere. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro is quietly examining his presidential prospects as a possible 2028 Democratic nominee. Speaking with the Salem Radio Network, Guy Cherokee of Real Clear Politics says the Pennsylvania governor is trying to appeal to both sides of the Democratic Party for their support.
In order to be president, he has to be the Democratic nominee. In order to be Democratic nominee, he wants to make sure he has the ability either to be the darling of progressives or the darling of moderates.
Cherokee says the trick will be appealing to both groups. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump is outraged by the attack in Colorado.
We have seen 2 horrific cases of anti-Semitic violence in our country in the last 2 weeks, and it is unacceptable to this president and this White House. And rest assured to all Jewish Americans across our great country, this president has your back, and he's not going to allow anyone to take part in violent terrorism, acts of terrorism in our country.
The suspect said he specifically targeted what he calls Zionist groups. On Wall Street, the Dow up by
The Sports Talk
35
Recruiting
points,
Report
the
is sponsored
Nasdaq
by
rose
Seawell's
128,
Catering.
the S&P advanced 24. More at townhall.com.
Big news! Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange, and millions like you are joining our news revolution. Newsmax is now the 4th highest-rated news channel, just behind CNN. Reuters says we're one of the top news brands in America. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax for shows with Rob Schmidt, Greta Van Susteren, Rob Finnerty, and more. So download our free Newsmax app on your smartphone or TV and start watching. President Trump says Newsmax is truly terrific. Get the free Newsmax app and check out Newsmax shares on the stock exchange. Go to newsmaxinvest.com. That's newsmaxinvest.com. This is not an offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such an offer would be unlawful.
Markets ticked up slightly.
Stocks shook off an early slide on Wall Street and drifted back closer to their records. The S&P 500 rose 0.4% Monday. The index is coming off its biggest monthly gain in over a year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average edged up 35 points. It's about 0.1%. The Nasdaq Composite rose 0.7%. Stocks had been down almost 1% early in the day, following some discouraging updates on manufacturing. The market rallied back as the day progressed. Gains for a handful of big tech stocks helped offset weakness elsewhere in the market. Seth Sutel, New York.
Space weather forecasters say northern lights may be visible in parts of the northern United States following weekend solar storms. The sun burped out another burst of energy Monday that's headed to Earth. Colorful auroras may be seen throughout much of the upper west, midwest, and northeast. News and analysis at townhall.com. From Washington, I'm Keith Peters.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Comfy this evening, our low temperature dipping to 63. Tomorrow, much like today, sunshine-filled skies, even warmer, highs up to 89. Increasing clouds on Wednesday, and on Thursday, we do have a 20% chance of some afternoon rain. We'll stay in the mid to upper 80s all week long. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
WQXL Columbia, W264DF.
Grills, outdoor kitchens, fireplaces. Summer sizzle starts with Bart. This is 107 The Point. Ooh, I like when you press that one.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Yeah, just to finish on what I was saying as we hit the top of the hour break, Bergie, about my about teams I cover in the postseason having a tendency to lose. Let's see, what did I say? Clemson baseball lost, I was there. Clemson basketball lost, I was there. South Carolina women's basketball lost, I was there. And South Carolina football bowl game lost, I was there. So I think I've completed the sweep. I got the sweep. I got the toilet bowl sweep.
We took the sombrero, though, in terms of sports talk coverage of football because Smitty went out to Texas and watched Clemson lose. And, of course, I was at the Myrtle Beach Bowl and watched Coastal lose. So, yeah, it was not the best ending during the football season.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And, but, you know, going back to this thing with Clemson, I know the fans were upset once again over not advancing. And I don't think there's any reason to fret. I don't think there's any reason to fret with Monty Lee when he was there. I mean, I think you're learning just how difficult it is, but Eric Bakich has built a very solid program, and the whole idea is to compete for league championships, regular season, tournament, and then get into the national tournament And, I mean, sometimes it comes together for you, or sometimes you run into a red-hot ball club. And, I mean, or a team gets hot. Maybe you're not hot going into the tournament, and you find it in the tournament. And I think West Virginia obviously found it at Clemson. And some other teams around the country have gotten hot and are finding it in these regionals at the expense of the more popular team.
I think East Carolina is another good example. They had to win 4 straight at the American Athletic Conference tournament just to get into the NCAAs, and then they beat Florida. They lose, fairly badly to Coastal in the first game, come back and beat Florida again, and then stretch Coastal to the limit yesterday in the championship game. So, yeah, I think you're right. And back to Eric Bakich, they certainly have the right guy there. But it's difficult. He's right. And I'm not sure I totally buy him saying they overachieved this year, because looking at their roster, though, you brought up a great point about their lineup. They didn't bat over 300. They didn't really hit the ball as well. But you just looked up and down that lineup, and I can't understand why. I mean, they had really, really good players, I thought. I just think the pitching injuries just caught up to them.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to overcome. I'll use Coastal as a great example. I mean, Jacob Morrison was not available to them last year. He was going through Tommy John surgery. Here's a guy they've worked back into the lineup, and all he did was turn into the Sun Belt Pitcher of the Year. And so, I mean, you've got to be healthy to be able to compete and win games, especially in a short turnaround like you have at a regional or certainly in a super regional, to get to Omaha. It's not an easy thing at all. We've seen that from both Carolina and Clemson. We thought they were going to be mainstays there back in the early 2010s. And haven't had either one of them back since 2012.
Yeah, it's just got to all come together for you. You got to have that right formula. You got to be lucky. You got to you got to make plays at the right time. I mean, going back to that Clemson game against West Virginia, when they lose that game, West Virginia scored 4 runs in the 9th. They scored another run prior to that, and then in the opening, the 2 runs that Kentucky scored, Clemson gave up 7 consecutive runs between those 2 games with 2 outs. So, I mean, I know you got to get 3 outs. I get that. They went in the 9th. All those runs that West Virginia scored came with 2 outs. So, I mean, you're right there. But you got to be able to deliver the knockout punch, and they could not do it. They could not do it. You got to get 27 outs. And coincidentally, West Virginia struggled to get Clemson out in the 9th, getting that last out for them with 2 outs. They had a difficult time. They finally got it, but it became a little bit hairy for them in the 9th inning. So, hey, sometimes it happens for you, but you just, as the wise old owls say about baseball, you just can't figure it out.
You really can't.
Every time you think you've seen it all and can kind of get your grasp on it, you can't figure out baseball, because the one thing baseball has that no other sport has, like basketball, you're going to run out the same 5 every day, barring injury. Football, you're going to run out the same 11 on each side every day, barring injury. But baseball's got a new guy on the mound every day, and that guy makes every bit of difference in the world. How do you explain the Yankees, using them as an example, giving up 18 runs to the Dodgers on Saturday, and then they turn around last night and they get a dominant pitching performance, and they win 7-3. It's about what you get on that mound.
And if I'm not mistaken, the big blowout win by the Dodgers came at the expense of Max Fried, right?
No, he lost on Friday.
Okay.
He lost.
I knew he
Friday.
pitched this weekend. I wasn't sure which game.
Yeah, he lost Friday, and he didn't pitch great either on Friday. He had his worst. He gave up 6 earned runs, I believe, his worst outing in New York. But you're right. I mean, it's a good example. You would expect with Max Fried going out there that you'd have you'd have an opportunity.
3-2 game.
Yeah. So, okay, we got a lot of recruiting, so let's get to recruiting.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
Okay, tomorrow, Tuesday, a great way to, have the second day of your week. Everybody's got Monday, you come back all energetic, and then Tuesday, sort of a blah. But make Tuesdays your Seawell's Day, and let Seawell's raise your spirits with the daily luncheon buffet at Seawell's. Every Tuesday through Friday from 11 till 2, you'll find the very best in the buffet world, the buffet line at Seawell's for only $14. No extra taxes there. They're not Well, they will throw a little something extra on if you use a card to pay. If you're paying cash, it's only $14. But it is well worth it. Bergie, have you checked out the menu yet for this week?
I did. They have not updated it yet as of today, so maybe by tomorrow we'll have the remainder of the week.
Well, see, that's a little trick of the trade. They want you to go to bed tonight dreaming about what the menu for the daily lunch and buffet is going to be. So sweet dreams, everybody. And for the very best in the catering business, just give the folks at Seawell's a phone call at 803-771-7385, online at SeawellsCateringSC.com. As you know, this past weekend was the first major recruiting weekend for official visits, so a ton of news out there, and we'll give you what we've got and what we've seen from others that's of importance. We'll begin with cornerback Danny Odom from Orlando, who visited Clemson over the weekend, 6'2", 185. He's a Pennsylvania native. His teammate, Chancellor Barkley, is already committed to Clemson. So Clemson's making a run at him. Developed a very good relationship with Mike Reed, the Clemson cornerbacks coach. And he got a chance to see Clemson from the inside and talk to Dabo Swinney. And he really likes how Clemson builds men for life after football. And he said that Swinney was direct with him, told him he's a great player. And if he surrounds himself with great players and practice every day, be around a championship-caliber team, championship-caliber coaches, the sky is the limit. He has 4 more visits on the docket, but Clemson has certainly moved well up with him. He said Clemson is in his final decision. They're up there at the top. Oklahoma, Ohio State, Auburn, Nebraska, Penn State are the others. He'll go to Oklahoma this weekend, then a midweek to Auburn, and then Ohio State June 13th, and then Nebraska June 20th. Clemson defensive tackles coach Nick Eason long has had his eyes focused on defensive tackle Bryce Perry Wright, 6'3", 260 of Buford, Georgia. Might even play defensive end. I saw some pictures of him where he looked like he lined up on the outside there some. But I think they probably expect him to grow and be about 280, 290. He visited Clemson over the weekend, said it was amazing, felt like home. Of course, he's very familiar with Clemson. He's been there a lot. He is the cousin of former Clemson defensive tackle Grady Jarrett, and his uncle is current Tiger defensive end Armon Mason. So he's very familiar with Clemson. And this weekend gave him a chance to become more comfortable around the program. Spent a lot of time with Eason and Chris Rumph and Dabo Swinney, and they made it clear to him that they think he can be a leader on their team. So he's being projected to commit to the Tigers. He said that Clemson's definitely moved up on his list after the visit, and he feels good about Clemson. And he said the visit helped a lot, gave him a full picture of the culture, the brotherhood. He's also been to Auburn, and he has visits coming up with Georgia, Texas, and Texas A&M. 2027 wide receiver Sequel Patterson of Indianaland announced on Sunday afternoon that he is reclassifying for the 2026 class. This was big news on Sunday. He has offers from South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, North Carolina, Florida State, Arkansas, NC State, Texas A&M, Virginia, Michigan, Michigan State, Indiana, West Virginia, and Syracuse. Clemson is also involved. Paul Strelo of Tiger Illustrated reported that Patterson was going to visit Clemson today. Last season, he had 52 catches for 758 yards and 7 touchdowns. He rushed for 441 yards and 3 touchdowns, had 23 tackles, 8 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, and he's also an elite basketball player. All right, so keep in mind the last 2 in-state players at wide receiver who reclassified both ended up at South Carolina. And he's been to South Carolina a pretty fair amount. That's why I think it's got some people thinking the Gamecocks might be the team in control here, but we'll have to wait and see how all this plays out and how quickly he decides to make a decision. One of the players to visit South Carolina over the weekend, offensive tackle Jabian Shabazz, 6'7", 296 of Kernersville, North Carolina. And he said the visit was awesome, had a great time. He said the main thing for him was to make sure that his people were good and that they got along with the coaches and the other people. He also talked a lot to the players and got the feedback from them how much they love being at South Carolina, in particular Josiah Thompson and Blake Franks. So the Gamecocks got the first shot at him, and he said they'll always be at the top. He said right now they're at the tippy top. Not exactly sure, Bergie, we're at the tippy top. He used the word tippy top.
Wow.
Yeah, he said they're at the tippy top. I like that from a 290-pound guy.
Yeah, exactly.
They're at the tippy top. So they've got the number one spot right now, he said. And he'll go see other schools, and then he'll make a decision. He would say South Carolina checked all his boxes. He said, I just got to see if schools can check pretty much all the boxes, and then he'll see if he has that same feeling that when he left South Carolina. This coming weekend, he heads up to Penn State, and then he will visit okay, I messed this up. Why did I type that in twice? Hang on just a second. I got some dates wrong here, but I'm going to fix it. So this weekend he goes to Penn State, then he goes to Tennessee, then he goes to Ohio State, and then he finishes up with North Carolina State, a midweek visit to North Carolina State. So it's Penn State and then Tennessee, and then he goes on from there. So if you look at my story online, be brighter than I am and realize that I wrote Penn State in there twice. I'll have to go back and fix that when I get a chance. All right, Clemson, Saturday, offered wide receiver Devin Fitzgerald of Phoenix, the son of the former NFL receiver Larry Fitzgerald. Father and son were at Clemson over the weekend. Fitzgerald has also visited UCLA and has visits coming up with Stanford, Notre Dame, and North Carolina. Linebacker Tyler Atkinson of Loganville, Georgia, commented to On3 about his official to Clemson, quote, the overall visit was incredible, and Clemson was more than welcoming to me. It was the meaning of priority. Clemson still remains a top school for me, and I was really impressed with everything. He has not yet revealed his other official visits. He's been kind of secretive about those other official visits. Offensive tackle Carter Scruggs said this to On3 about his Clemson visit over the weekend. Quote, they are in the lead right now, but I'm still heavily considering other schools. Right now, I still plan on taking my future OVs, but I might be closer than I originally thought, end quote. Scheduled for Michigan, Penn State, and Georgia the next 3 weekends. But it looks pretty strong for Clemson there. Defensive end Dre Quinn said this to On3 about his Clemson visit. Quote, it was an amazing experience in Death Valley. The energy, the tradition, the way the staff and players welcomed us, it all stood out, end quote. He's also been to Georgia Tech, and he's got Georgia, Texas, and Notre Dame coming up the next 3 weekends. Offensive tackle Leo Delaney said this to On3 about his Clemson visit. Quote, Clemson is absolutely a top contender, and I feel like they're a one-of-a-kind program, and it absolutely helped them, end quote. He has Penn State, Michigan, and Tennessee scheduled the next 3 weekends. Paul Strelo of Tiger Illustrated issued a projection to Clemson for Delaney this morning. Timberland offensive tackle Desmond Green was at Georgia over the weekend. He has requested that the media not contact him until he has completed his official visit so he can focus on all of this. He is scheduled for Oklahoma, Florida, and South Carolina the next 3 weekends. He's also been to Virginia Tech. So, Bergie, stop calling him.
I'm sorry. I was bored. I mean, I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning driving home from Conway. Figured I could do something useful, do some recruiting.
Lose that number. Lose that number. 2027 Burns running back David Segura was offered by Clemson on Sunday. He has camp stops set with Tennessee, Clemson, Florida State, and Florida, and a 7-on-7 at South Carolina. Yet Clemson on Sunday, being June 1, handed out a bunch of 2027 offers. Some others, linebacker Max Brown of Jefferson, Georgia, the brother of Sammy Brown. You can probably color him Clemson. Linebacker Caden Henderson of Tampa. cornerback Joshua Dobson of Catawba Ridge, defensive back Harrison Luke of Bogart, Georgia. He's the son of offensive line coach Matt Luke. You can probably color him Clemson. Today, in the 27 class, the Tigers offered offensive tackle Jimmy Callis, 6'7", 285 of Pittsburgh. Offensive tackle Kennedy Brown, 6'5", 280 of Houston. Some are calling him the number one player in the country. How they determined this is beyond me, but some are. And 2027 linebacker Quentin Cipher, 6'3", 220 from Raleigh. 27, Hammond linebacker Bubba Alexander, 5'11", 205, plans to camp at Clemson this week, as does 27 receiver Miles McAfee of Waldorf, Maryland, and 27 running back KJ Berg. He's going to camp at Clemson on Tuesday. And 2027 offensive tackle Carter Jones will make a camp stop at Clemson on June the 4th. Also Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, and Florida. 27 defensive end Santana Harvey of Lakeland, Florida, plans to camp at Clemson this coming weekend. 2028 linebacker Quinn Jacobs of Roswell, Georgia, 6'3", 220, plans to camp at Clemson this weekend. He's the brother of Clemson freshman offensive tackle Brandon Jacobs. What about the Gamecocks, Corn? You're asking yourself. What about the Gamecocks? Bergie, are you asking to yourself, what about the Gamecocks?
Yes. Were they not doing any recruiting over the weekend?
No, they did plenty of
recruiting. They just let Clemson handle everything this weekend?
No, they had people in. So the Gamecocks, we turn the page to the Gamecocks now. Cornerback Kerry Adams was strong on Penn State before his official to South Carolina over the weekend. He told 24/7 Sports, quote, "I don't even know my list now. I really don't know the order. I am sorting through. I learned how I would be used. I am a press man corner, so knowing that like that is good," end quote. He has been to Penn State. He has visits to Michigan, Notre Dame, and Oregon coming up. South Carolina target defensive tackle Aiden Harris posted on Saturday that his commitment will be made soon. He and his brother, his twin brother, defensive end Andrew, are scheduled to visit South Carolina this weekend. They intend to commit to the same school. They are being projected to South Carolina by J.C. Sherbert of the Big Spur. So color them Gamecocks. Wide receiver Amin Acker of Crescent visited South Carolina Friday. Going to return for a camp workout on Thursday. That camp workout will likely determine if Shane Beamer and Mike Furry make him an offer. South Carolina target defensive tackle Noah Clark has set July 2nd for his commitment date. He visited Duke over the weekend. He has also visited Virginia. He has South Carolina this weekend, followed by Virginia Tech and NC State the next 2 weekends. Chad Simmons of On3 today issued a projection to South Carolina for Northwestern safety Tomarion Watkins. He went to Miami over the weekend. He has Georgia, Texas A&M, and USC the next 3 weekends. Steve Wiltfong of On3 and J.C. Sherbert of the Big Spur are projecting South Carolina to land quarterback Landon Duckworth for a second time. Duckworth originally committed to the Gamecocks in August of 2023. He decommitted the following June. He visited Auburn over the weekend. He has USC scheduled for the coming weekend, followed by Florida State and Ole Miss. Ole Miss had been projected by some. In fact, some of these same people, some of these same networks had Ole Miss out in front for him. But now some of them are saying South Carolina is going to get him. We shall see. If he cuts it off after the South Carolina visit, then of course. If he lets this thing play out till he goes to Ole Miss, hang on. 2028 quarterback Grayson Clary, now out of Rabun Gap, Georgia, formerly of Daniel, plans to make a camp stop at South Carolina on June 9th. 2027 Woodruff running back Aiden Gibson was offered by Tennessee. Baseball, South Carolina coach Paul Maneri got a big portal pickup on Saturday. Purdue first baseman Logan Sutter, 6'1", 215, announced he'll transfer as a grad student to the Gamecocks for next season. He's a native of Loomis, California, who played 2 seasons at Folsom Lake Junior College near Sacramento. He played the last 2 seasons for the Boilermakers. He broke through this season as one of the top hitters in the Big Ten. Sutter played as a DH with a few starts at third and one at first. He batted .367, second highest in the Big Ten, with 15 homers and 62 RBIs, a .709 slugging percentage, 36 walks. He struck out 47 times, and he committed just 2 errors. So he's coming in. Of course, they've already got a first baseman in Bo Hollins, but you can't have enough, and I'm sure they can play multiple positions. Seems like a nice pickup. Samford right-hander Cullen Horowitz, 6'4", 220, announced a commitment to South Carolina. He made 12 relief appearances this season with an 0-1 record and an 8.71 ERA. Okay, I know that doesn't sound real good, but he struck out 20 in 10 1/3 innings. And John Whittle wrote that he has touched 99 with his fastball. So they're going to take a guy here just and hope that they can develop him. A guy with an arm like that, you just hope for the best. He spent 2 years at Samford and a season at San Jacinto Junior College. More South Carolina players announcing departure via the portal. John, infielder Will Tippett, DH Chase Woita, right-hander Tyler Pitzer, right-hander Eddie Copper, second baseman Nolan Naraki, right-hander Eli Jerzenbeck, catcher Max Kaufer. But the good news, as we mentioned earlier, is that Jake McCoy announced that he is returning. Clemson left-hander Ethan Darden announced he is transferring, or it's been reported he is transferring. Coastal Carolina outfielder infielder Jake Books, B-O-O-K-S, is transferring. He's a guy that he played a good bit last year, but he's been hurt this year, right?
Correct.
What's he had, like a knee or something?
That I'm not sure.
Yeah. Basketball, 6'7", Cade Tyson, brother of former Clemson standout Hunter Tyson, transferring from North Carolina to Minnesota. 2027, 6'7", Josh Leonard of Wilson visited North Carolina State today, according to Joe Tipton of On3. And I do believe, ladies and gentlemen, we have concluded tonight's edition of the Recruiting Report, brought to you by Seawells. What kind of grade do you give us, Bergie?
Lengthy.
Lengthy is not a grade.
I think you probably knocked it out of the park. I'm going to give that an A.
Give it an A.
I think it was a well-done recruiting report.
That's good stuff. Well, there's a lot of stuff out there, and try to put together as much of it as we can. Trying to help it. I'm just trying to make it all make sense. Okay, excited to have Chad Holbrook joining us. He'll do this every Friday night through the CWS. Chad Holbrook coming up in a moment.
On Point Weather is made possible by our friends at Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union on 107 The Point.
Here's tonight's forecast. Comfy this evening, our low temperature dipping to 63. Tomorrow, much like today, sunshine-filled skies, even warmer, highs up to 89. Increasing clouds on Wednesday, and on Thursday, we do have a 20% chance of some afternoon rain. We'll stay in the mid to upper 80s all week long. I'm Cal Moss with your On Point local weather.
Hey y'all, it's Ted from Flight Deck Restaurant. We're introducing our new healthy gluten-free menu. For your choices, we offer charbroiled certified Angus ribeye steak, juicy marinated grilled chicken dinner, fresh grilled salmon, authentic Greek salad, hamburger steak with grilled onions and melted cheese, shish kebab with grilled chicken, veggie blue plate with a choice of 4 vegetable selections, spring chicken salad, and of course, our famous slow-roasted pot roast. Come and enjoy a healthy gluten-free menu at Flight Deck Restaurant. We at Flight Deck Restaurant thank you, and God bless.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Authorities say a man posed as a gardener before launching an attack in Boulder with Molotov cocktails that injured 12 people. The man's accused of throwing incendiary devices into a group that had gathered to bring attention to Israeli hostages in Gaza. The FBI says the man charged in the attack told police he planned it for a year and specifically targeted what he described as the Zionist group. A split Supreme Court has rejected a pair of gun rights cases, though one conservative justice predicts the court will soon consider whether assault weapons bans are constitutional. The majority did not explain its reasoning in turning down the cases over high-capacity magazines and guns like the AR-15, which are popular weapons that have been used in mass shootings. More details at srnnews.com.
Lots of plumbing companies out there. Few are truly local. Time to discover the difference with Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning. See, when I faced plumbing woes at the Cohen home, Josh and his dedicated team, well, they were my go-to solution. They make a commitment to exceptional service. They arrived on time, clearly detailed all the costs and procedures, and efficiently handled all my repairs without any surprises. These days, how often do we complain about a lack of customer service out there? With Franklin Plumbing and Drain Cleaning, these folks are professional. They're courteous. They're skilled at what they do, and they've earned my trust, and they've earned my recommendation to you. From urgent repairs to the tankless water heater you've always wanted, they've got you covered. Visit franklinplumbing.sc.com or call 799-2222. That's 799-2222. Hey, you tell them Kev sent you from The Point. I'm pretty sure you'll want to thank me later.
Groucho's Deli is the Midland's most loved, historic, and awarded deli and has been for decades, serving trademark subs like the STP Dipper with melty Swiss over roast beef, turkey, and bacon bits on a soft sub roll and served with Groucho's famous 45 sauce. Come into any of our 8 Midlands locations and see for yourself or pick up with fast, convenient, and friendly service at Grouchos.com or on the Groucho's app and sign up for the Groucho's Rewards and Birthday Brownie Club.
At Palmetto State Armory, we offer the largest selection of guns and ammunition at unbeatable prices. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff are here to provide personalized assistance, ensuring you find exactly what you need. If you enjoy outdoor activities like hunting, camping, or hiking, our clothing and outdoor gear collection has got you covered. We also feature an exceptional indoor range facility where you can experience the thrill of shooting in a safe and controlled environment. Visit us today at PalmettoStateArmory.com or your local retail store. Palmetto State Armory, American made for life.
Relax. Your banking should be easy. You'll love our free checking account with e-statements from Founders Federal Credit Union. You get everything you need. No monthly fees, no stress. Founders Online makes it easy to securely and seamlessly switch your direct deposit in minutes. It uses the latest in online encryption technology to gather and store your switch information. Additionally, Founders adheres to the highest industry standards to keep your personal information safe. Still waiting to switch? No worries. Apply today for an account and enjoy your secure, convenient banking with Founders. Already have an account? Founders Online lets you transfer your direct deposit in just a few clicks. Let Founders be your trusted financial partner. Visit one of our convenient locations or go to foundersfcu.com/checking to get started today. Federally insured by the NCUA. Membership qualification required. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, we continue our coverage here on Sports Talk. Best coverage of the NCAA baseball tournament around here. I was at Clemson, and Bergie was at Coastal Carolina, and we're going to be continuing on this week with Bergie going with Coastal Carolina down to Auburn, and then we'll go on from there. In just a moment, Coach Chad Holbrook from the College of Charleston is going to join us. He's taking off his baseball helmet and putting on an analyst cap. He's going to be our analyst here moving forward through the rest of the playoffs, through the College World Series, just talking baseball, and we appreciate it. North Carolina beat Oklahoma 14-4. Now Tennessee has turned it on against Wake Forest 8-2. Murray State is leading Ole Miss 6-3. That's in the top of the fifth. And Oregon State leading Southern Cal 5-0 in the top of the fifth. And Coach Holbrook was in Chapel Hill. Son still plays for the Tar Heels. He was there watching them take on Oklahoma. Before we talk about all that, first of all, I want to welcome you to Sports Talk and welcome you in this role. We really appreciate it. What kind of sparked me here was the other night at the hotel, I was scanning through the channels and ran across the special that ESPN was running on the SEC network In Spirit, that film that was produced by the former Gamecock outfielder Jake Williams about the Gamecocks 2010-2011 national championship teams, the inspiration that you guys got from Charlie Peters and Baylor Teal in those 2 seasons. And I saw you on there, of course, being interviewed, and I thought it was awesome. I said to myself, let's get Coach on and talk about that. Then I thought to myself, and let's talk more baseball. So thank you for joining us. And first of all, I want to touch on SEC Storied. I'm sure you've seen it maybe multiple times. What'd you think about the production and the story that they told in that story?
Well, one, Phil, thanks for having me on. It's an honor to talk about those teams and talk college baseball. It's obviously means a whole lot to me, but those 2010 and 11 teams were special groups, and there's a lot of special backstories, and you mentioned it with Charlie and Baylor, but there was a lot of things that went into those teams winning back-to-back national championships, and man, I was lucky to be in the dugout to witness it, and it was a special group of players. They were inspired by incredible fighters, young men fighting for their lives and have fought for their lives, and we got to witness one, obviously observe one and grow to love one that lost his life, and it was an emotional time. It was incredible experience, great kids, worked hard, winners, competitors, toughness, all those tangibles us coaches talk about. I got to experience, and everybody says, what made those teams so special, and it's so many things. And I thought the documentary was great. Credit to Jake Williams, who was an instrumental part of those teams, or the team in 2011, and had some big moments himself on the big stage, and he was certainly motivated to put that together, and it was years in the making. He worked awfully hard on it, and I'm awfully proud of him for doing that. And I think it tells a great story, and what a run we got to all be on and experience that. Seems still like yesterday to me.
Yeah. Realizing, and Eric Backus said this yesterday after they lost and fell out of the tournament, how hard it is to get to Omaha. You appreciate those 3 years even more, considering you haven't been back since, no matter where you've been, and just how tough it is. How South Carolina hasn't been back since. Clemson hasn't been back since 2010. And fans kind of think, well, I don't want to put the fans down. I'm not saying they kind of think, but some of them think it's like, it's a birthright to go to Omaha every year, and it's just not that easy anymore, the way the talent is being spread out and more money is being spent on college baseball all across the country. Schools now want to be good in college baseball.
Well, there's so much parity, and obviously baseball is often dictated by how good one individual is on the mound. And if you have an advantage on the pitcher's mound in a particular game, you might be better player for player, but you might be in a fight, or you might lose because the other team has a better pitcher, or might be a struggle to score that particular day. It makes the game very, very unique and very special. It also brings some heartbreak. It brings euphoric moments, and it brings heartbreak. And I've got to experience both, as a coach, I've been lucky to be in Omaha 6 times. And, man, I consider myself one of the luckiest coaches ever to go once. And because we know as coaches how hard it is. And we went 6, been able to go 6 times, and hopefully maybe we're a weekend away from the Holbrooks getting to go back again. And hopefully Reese and his team will get 2 more wins, and we'll get to go sit as fans and cheer them on in a couple weeks. So that'll be really, really cool. But it's a special place out there, and yes, it's hard. It's a hard place to get to, and that's what makes those teams, those 2010, 11, and 12 teams so special. I mean, think about it. I mean, how many did we win? 22 games, NCAA tournament games in a row?
Mm-hmm.
That's never duplicate for anyone. And that's especially the way college baseball is set up now. So it's a special group of Gamecocks, and, man, I was lucky to be a part of it.
Well, it's a group that South Carolina fans and really baseball fans in the entire state and really around the country too, because you became such favorites around the country with the stories and with the players too. You had such great personalities on that team, so many different stories, and so many guys went on to play Major League Baseball. It'll never be forgotten. I mean, that was just some unbelievable group. Let's talk about the Tar Heels, because you're on your way back from Chapel Hill. They took care of their business against Oklahoma today. How good is this North Carolina team, you think?
I think they can win it all. They're pitching, and the reason why they're really, really strong on the mound. They're strong up the middle. They have a dynamic center fielder. They have dynamic pitchers. They have a dynamic, Jason Varitek type catcher behind the plate. And a lot of times the strength of a team is built on how strong you are at the middle, and it obviously starts on the mound. And I don't know if anybody's going to be much better than North Carolina. Obviously, Coastal Carolina is very strong on the mound as well, and that's what makes it great. I mean, but North Carolina's awfully good. They can swing it. They can beat you with power. They can beat you with speed. They have dynamic starting pitching, and they have an incredible closer. They have some of those same ingredients that we had in 10 and 11, and you got to be lucky. The ball's got to bounce your way, but they're certainly talented enough to win it all. And
they'll get to be at home for the next round. Let's go to Coastal Carolina. You mentioned them. What a run. Wait a minute. Wait a second. You're the last coach to beat Coastal Carolina. How'd you do it?
We went 2-0. I don't know how. We played great those nights. Baseball's one of those games, and that's why, the fans, get their hearts broken sometimes. It's just one of those games where, the ball might not bounce your way, or the most talented team might not win. But they are awfully good, and we didn't see when we played Coastal, we didn't see their weekend arms, which is the strength of their team. And obviously, they have those SEC type, HEC type weekend rotation, and they also have some dynamic guys in the bullpen as well. And it's not the typical Coastal Carolina team that would beat you with power and beat you with speed and stolen bases, and they try to beat you from an offensive standpoint, try to outscore you. This team, they try to out-defend you, and they get timely hitting, and they're tough. They're well coached. They have an air about them, a little bit of a cocky arrogance that we had, those 2010 and 11 teams had. So obviously, they're going to be a tough out, and got to go to Auburn though. And as you know, it's hard to win on the road, especially at an SEC venue. It's hard, but they're talented enough to beat anybody anywhere, and that should be a great super regional. Two dynamic teams with incredible talent. And it's interesting where I think Auburn's going to be one of those teams that can really beat you with the way they score, swing the bat. And they're good on the mound, but some of those freshman position players are wow, future big leaguers. I mean, they can really swing the bat. And then Coastal is going to try to slow them down with that outstanding pitching staff they have. So should be a great super regional for sure.
Okay.
Chad Holbrook joining us tonight, the head baseball coach at the College of Charleston. He's going to be our baseball analyst now through the College World Series. And, Coach, you may be able to speak to this as well as anybody because you were the guy to follow the guy. You took over when Coach Tanner stepped down at South Carolina and retired. Kevin Snall is doing the exact same thing, almost in a similar setup as you had at USC. But the job he's done this season replacing Gary Gilmore, and 51 wins already, and as Phil pointed out, they had a loss since they played you guys in April. Can you speak to how difficult it is to replace a legend and say a Ray Tanner or a Gary Gilmore and speak to the job that Kevin Snall has done with his team this year?
Well, he's always been a great coach, and you just keep it going. I mean, I don't think as a coach you sit in that chair and say, I'm replacing Gary Gilmore, or I'm replacing Ray Tanner. You just try to win the next game. That's for fans and for media to talk about is who you're replacing. It's hard to win, okay, and it's hard to maintain that level of excellence at such a high level. And they have a great team, and they have a incredible chance and opportunity to get back to the College World Series. And they haven't missed a beat, and you got to give Coach Snall credit. They have a lot of pieces in place there, and again, incredible talent on the mound. So. Is it hard to maintain that level of excellence that Hall of Fame coaches kind of set the standard? Yes, it's hard, but it's it's hard to win no matter who you're replacing. And trying to keep up the pace with the Gary Gilmore is difficult, but he's off to a great start, and I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Coastal Carolina and the way they play, and they're doing the state proud for sure, and they have a chance. They have a chance to get back and compete for a national championship, and you got to give a lot of credit to Coastal. That program's all about winning, and they've won at a high level for a long period of time.
Bigger picture now about the NCAA tournament. Have you been surprised, looking at it from an outsider's perspective, but having the inside knowledge, having coached in the Southeastern Conference for as long as you did, at the relatively poor showing by the league, especially at the top with both Vanderbilt and Texas losing in the regionals? Did we overestimate how good the SEC is? Or, going back to your initial point, are we just speaking about now the depth of talent being spread across the landscape of college baseball?
Yeah, I think, again, that's the SEC's not any worse. They set the standard in college baseball for a long period of time. All you have to do is look at the national champions the last 25 years. Now, have they had a bad weekend? I kind of agree with you there. It's not been a great weekend for the league. However, a national champion could still be standing from the SEC in a couple weeks. So it's not like they've fallen flat on their face. They've lost some tough games and some tough series, and Vanderbilt losing at home was a complete surprise and a shock. Obviously, maybe the biggest upset in recent memory in college baseball. And Texas, obviously, being the regular season champ, not being able to win at home against a mid-major team is a surprise as well. But, Tennessee's going to be a tough out. LSU's going to be a tough out. And Ole Miss is still breathing, even though maybe barely. But there still can be a national champion from the SEC. Has it been a great weekend for them? No. But are we ready to stand up and say, hey, somebody's passed them? I'm not ready to say that. All you got to do is look at the last 25 years, and the 25 national champions have been crowned, and the SEC's been a dominant league in the sport of college baseball. But there's parity now, and the years are, I guess, the way college baseball is set up now with the NIL and people jumping from team to team and program to program, the parity, the talent spread out now a little bit more than it's been, and you got to give credit to the ACC too. They have some dang good teams, and in North Carolina, they have a chance. I know I'm a little bit biased. My son has that jersey on, and I'm an alum, but they have a chance. They have a chance to win it as well, and as Louisville. They're still in the fight as well, and I may be missing Miami. I guess is playing tonight. So two dang good baseball leagues, and that's for the fans to talk about. And, it's not been a great weekend for the SEC, but I'm not ready to sit up here and say they've fallen flat on their face. They still can, in a couple of weeks, be crowned a national champ, and I wouldn't bet against LSU if they get to Omaha.
Yeah. All right, last thing, we'll let you go. We got to touch on Clemson. After their lost weekend, West Virginia came in and found it at the right time. That's a good-looking club. They got some strong arms over there. Of course, Kentucky knocked Clemson out with their speed and reckless abandon on the base paths. And
right.
Clemson had a good team. Do you think maybe we're just here talking about it? You think the injuries sort of caught up with them at the end of the day to the pitching staff, with Darden out for a good bit and Garris, they just came back, and I always felt that they were still missing. They gave up. One thing with me, in thinking about it, they had 21 come from behind victories. I don't know how you feel about that. 21 come from behind victories. That's great. But then you have to question, why are you falling behind so much? And finding yourself in a position to have to come from behind. You see where I'm going with that? Maybe their starting pitching wasn't as great as it needed to be?
Well, we didn't play Clemson this year, and I watched them on TV a number of times, and I think the world of Eric Bakich. I think he's a great baseball coach. And I honestly, if I'm analyzing that team as an analyst and not as an opponent, I think he might have gotten as much out of that team as he possibly could have gotten out of them when you just analyze it from a talent standpoint. And while they were very talented, yes, they were, but they didn't have that dominant starting pitching, Friday, Saturday, Sunday that you see with some of these some of these teams. I mean, like I'll give you an example. North Carolina, I hate to go back to them, but they run out a first rounder on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I mean, and some other teams are running out first rounders, for second rounders, All-Americans on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, not just on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, at the end of the game, the back end, they have a dominant closer that might be a high draft pick or an All-American as well. And it seems like Clemson was a little bit short in just dominant pitching. They had good pitchers. They had solid pitchers. But they didn't have some of those dominant, back in the day of Chris Benson, Billy Cox, and, those guys they had that were going to Omaha year in and year out. They just didn't have those dominant pitchers that they've had in the past. And when you have really good, solid pitching and you compete every weekend against some dominant starting pitching, that's when I like to say, and they still won at the level that they won. I tip my cap to Eric. I think he might have squeezed as much blood out of that turnip as he possibly could have. And I'm not saying they lack talent. I'm just saying they had some injuries. They probably didn't have all their guns ablazing all year long from an injury standpoint. And they were up against some teams that were dynamic, and they still held their own. I know it's difficult to lose a home regional, but you have to win a lot of games to be able to put yourself in a position to be one of the top 16 seeds. And they had a great regular season, but the lack of depth on their pitching staff may have shown through at the end. And it's tough to win, man. It's tough to win regionals, and when you don't have dominant guys on the mound. And maybe, I'm not saying with 100% certainty, but maybe that's what got them at the end is they're pitching from just a pure T stuff standpoint, didn't measure up with some of the teams like West Virginia, and even, Kentucky threw some guys out there that were pretty darn good too.
Yeah.
So, but Eric Bakich did a hell of a job coaching this team, and they just fell short. And a lot of good. Everybody's good. A lot of good baseball teams out there, and I'm sure they'll regroup and they'll add some dynamic pitchers to that staff and some dominant stuff, and they'll be back in that position again next year, I'm sure.
Coach, great stuff. We enjoyed it. Safe travels. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks for having me on, guys. Look forward to talking with you.
Talk to you next week, next Monday. Thank you very much.
All right.
Coach Chad Holbrook being deputized as the analyst here on Sports Talk, filling the big shoes of Jim Toman. Of course, Coach Toman would be in this spot as well. Be good to have both of them on. Of course, Coach Toman is recovering from cancer surgery, brain cancer surgery. I posted a picture. His daughter sent me a picture of him. We put that on our X account, SC Sports Now. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, do so, SC Sports Now. He looks great.
Yes, he does.
Looks
and
great.
That's great to see. I'm just not sure there's enough airtime for both of them to be on at the same time.
That would be kind of tough. We know who would hog it all. All right, we'll be back.
There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. There's a lot of things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot.
October 31st,
and the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there. If you're looking to grow your business, Sports Talk is here to help. Whether you're a small business owner, protection you want at the price you want. We want to hear about all what backed you by do. South Carolina. Sports Talk has a proven track record of delivering real results to our partners, and advertising with us is probably more affordable than things we take for granted in our lives. Your home's AC will run cool. Your drive-through coffee will be hot, and the car will start when it's time to take your kids to school. It's when things don't go as planned that you start thinking about who to call and where to turn. The good thing is, you can prepare for life's most difficult days by calling the Larry Lucas Agency today. Larry is a State Farm agent that has been taking care of people across South Carolina for more than 2 decades. You probably have insurance, but switching is easy, and bundling can save you hundreds or more. Most importantly, the Larry Lucas Agency can help you choose the protection you want at the price you want. All backed by South Carolina's #1 home and auto insurance company. Visit LarryLucasAgency.com today or give Larry a call at 803-799-1998. Like a good neighbor, Larry Lucas State Farm is there.
My diamonds came from dirt. The more I love you, the less I hurt. Now my pen can't find the words. I wrote songs about sinning, evil women, pills, and cars. I wrote songs about drinking till you walked in and raised the bar. But who am I?
Thanks again to Chad Holbrook. Looking forward to spending a lot of time with him on the show through the College World Series. We may even expand it and have him on more regularly once we get to Omaha to kind of break it down day by day if he's able and willing to. Of course, he's going to have camps and everything going on. We'll play that by ear. Let's go to let me just update the scores here. We got 8-4 Tennessee over Wake, bottom of the 5th. Murray State 10, Ole Miss 3, top of the 6th. Oregon State 6, Southern Cal nothing, top of the 6th. And Andy in Columbia, got a couple of minutes left. Welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing good, Corn. I hope you and Chris are doing well. And I got to say this: the body is a very polite young man, and you can tell he wasn't trained by you. So, thanks
well, had he been trained by me, he'd have hung up on you a long time ago.
Well, actually, he did come on and told me Coach Holbrook was going to be on for me to call back. So he didn't want me to waste my battery, so I thought that was very kind.
He's a very polite young man. Nice. Well raised.
Yes, very nice. Now, my Knicks.
Bye-bye.
I'll tell you what.
Bye-bye.
You know, I think he listened to DP today, and I didn't realize until he brought up the Cat had one block shot during that whole series. I mean,
he was either really good or just not even visible at times. You know, when he wanted to be good, he was good.
Well, defensively, he kind of plays like Kornblut. Offensively, he plays very well.
Plays that Matador defense. Ole?
Yeah.
Ole.
I mean, they got burned on the pick and roll tremendously. And, you know, talking about the TNT thing, the way I understand it is they're bringing their whole production company.
Yeah, they
over,
are.
And it's going to be, you know, let's just hope ESPN doesn't stick their noses where it doesn't belong.
I agree. We got to run. Sorry to shortchange it. Join us tomorrow night, and we'll see you tomorrow.